We were talking about what we wanted to do. Um, we wanted to do mental health. Um, we understand that addiction and addiction treatment centers. A lot of them have the dual diagnosis where a lot of times you're doing drugs because of your mental health. Um, but we really wanted to take the mental health approach with with our treatment center, to have the vertical of where we can treat people with really acute mental health problems.
All right, welcome to the Boost, conversations with people promoting mental health. And I'm here with Preston Powell, the CEO of Webserv, and Paul Aston, who is the Senior Vice President of Strategic Engagements. I almost got that right. How are you guys doing today?
Pretty good. I'm doing
Yeah, I'm
good.
doing great.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad to be here with you guys too. And we actually have a lot to talk about. We got the End Overdose golf tournament and event to talk about. We've got Bright Path to talk about. I'm just doing some breadcrumbs right here that we'll cover off later in the conversation. But and then the amazing work you all are doing at WebServe. I want to talk about that. But let's start the way we always start, which is the virtual hug and the shameless plug. So the virtual hug is tell us each something or somebody you're grateful for today. And Preston, I'll throw it to you first.
Yeah, I'm grateful for. It's probably cheesy. Probably everyone says this, but it's the first thing that always comes to mind. My wife and son.
That is almost always the answer. And it's a great thing. It's a great thing. I mean, it only speaks to how valuable it is in our lives.
Yeah, I mean my life is basically work and them, and you know.
I do. Yeah, I do. I do in my own way. How about you, Paul?
Well, I wish you wouldn't have let Preston go first because I feel like he hijacked the thing that I was thinking about. But mine's a little different. I'm gonna say my wife, not my kids, even though I have three of them. But just I've been with my wife 15 years, and literally we just had our honeymoon, not honeymoon, anniversary on August 13th. So we went to Tahoe for our anniversary, and we hung out a little bit. And there was a point when I went up to her, and after 15 years, am not the most sentimental or loving, but I just went up to her because I was just kind of thinking about her, and I went up to her and I said, "Hey, I want you to know that I'm very lucky to have you as a partner, and that you let me be me, and that's really important to me. Like I've had girlfriends in the past. I actually have been married before. I'm divorced. I married my high school kind of sweetheart growing up, and she didn't really let me be me. And I was kind of thinking about that at the time. My wife encourages who I am, and she loves that. And so I just that's who I'm grateful for. She pushes me. We were talking about my title earlier, and that was one of the things I bounced off her. Hey, what do you think about this? Because she's way smarter than me. So that's who I'm grateful for.
It's amazing. It's so great. I mean, for a number of reasons that are all your own for both of you, and also, um, you know, there's so much good, and it does come up every time. And Preston, it's funny you said that because I've been thinking that silently to myself almost every interview I've had, where it's like, yes, I bet I know what they're going to say. And family, relationships in a world where we're looking for the antidote to loneliness, as part of this answer to mental health crisis or mental health challenges is the relationships around us. And so when people step into a moment of gratitude and feel like, what am I thankful for? That comes to mind so often. So it's really powerful. And then Paul, your idea about people that let us be who we are and also help us uh, by challenging us, and encouraging us to be better than who we are, but not trying to change, like not trying to, letting you be you. but then also encouraging you to be the best version of you.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's it's probably one of her best traits. So, and my dad, it was kind of funny. Growing up, I was one of 7 kids, and my dad would tell me, marry a woman that makes you a better person. And I always kind of just wanted to marry the hottest chick. But my wife is amazingly hot. I'm not trying to say she's not, but there's girlfriend material and there's marriage material. And one thing my dad always says, marry somebody that makes you a better person.
Yeah, good advice. Great advice. Well, thank you both for that. Let's do the shameless plug. And Preston, I'll throw this to you too, which is tell us about Webserv to start with.
Yeah, Webserv is a digital marketing agency that specializes in behavioral healthcare. I started Webserv when I was in sober living, right after I got out of treatment with a partner, and I didn't know if it was gonna work out or what, but I was really excited about it, and through a lot of hard work and effort, I mean, it's gotten to where it is today. It's crazy looking back, but I honestly believe that our agency is the best offering in paid media and earned and owned media as well within the space, and and I think we provide the best value to our clients. Obviously, I'm biased, but I spend countless hours just trying to make our services better and better. And you know, especially over the last maybe couple years, I feel like we've really kind of gotten to where I wanted to be, and now I want to want to take it to the next step again, which seems to be a progression. Um, but it's been a wild ride. You know, when we started, I was riding a bus uh, to share this little corner of this office, and I finally saved up $800 and I got this beater car, and then I was showing up at treatment centers with cookies pretending like I had a meeting with the CEO, um, and then I had no clue what I was doing, and I've learned a lot of lessons. I tend to learn lessons the hard way, but they stick. um, and um, uh, yeah, still currently learning a lot of things and understanding the business more and more, because I was always passionate about marketing and finding ways to help generate revenue from the internet.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's scrappy beginnings, and also probably some deep life experience, that you've turned into helping organizations, and you all have some marquee clients. I won't speak for you, but what's like an ideal customer profile look like for you out across the country? Because you're based, Preston, you're in Texas, but the company's headquartered in California. But you guys are everywhere. What's an ideal customer look like?
Yeah, that's a good question, especially right now because we've been building like TAM lists for
Hmm.
advertising purposes. But um, we try to find behavioral healthcare centers that employ 25 or more people. Basically over 1 million in revenue, up to maybe um, 10, no, probably to 50 million. So 1 to 50 million behavioral health care centers. Um, but I mean, I guess there's a little bit more to it than that, because we also work with medical device companies and things like that. But yeah, where we focus is on behavioral health centers with 25 to, you know, 300 employees.
Something like that. Nice. Okay. Well, that gives me and the audience a sense of that. Paul, talk about End Overdose. We were talking not too long ago, maybe last week or two, about this event, which sounds amazing in Torrey Pines, but it's got a great cause behind it too. So talk about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we partnered up with this company called End Overdose, um, which is some LA firefighter paramedics that were sick and tired of people overdosing and dying on the streets, so they started a company called End Overdose. They're an amazing nonprofit, and we were talking to them about trying to do an event where we could raise $250,000. End Overdose goes to so many events, so many raves, so many different things, and gives out Narcan and does Narcan trainings and and we talked a little bit about this, but Narcan is an amazing drug that nobody really knows about outside of this space. Narcan can literally bring you back to life when you're having a fentanyl overdose, and we all know that overdoses are higher than they've ever been. So this is I call, and what we're trying to call, kind of a pandemic, where we need to bring awareness to this. So the main purpose of the End Overdose event is to bring awareness to ending overdose and ways that we can do that. So when we were talking with End Overdose about what event we could do, I wanted to do something a little bit outside the box that's not like your typical addiction recovery or mental health collective, which I've been to so many of. We really wanted to blend the lines of kind of Hollywood and music and recovery. So what we decided to do is do an event at Torrey Pines Golf Course on Friday, October 4th and Saturday, October 5th. Friday, October 4th, what we're going to be doing um, is we're going to have kind of a dinner slash gala where we're going to hopefully have anywhere from 150 to 200 people at the Hilton Torrey Pines, overlooking the ocean, overlooking Torrey Pines Golf Course, where we're going to have this amazing dinner, steak and chicken, and just amazing with drinks and all different kinds of things. But during all of that Friday night, we're going to have a DJ. Her name is Heidi Lawson. She's very well known in the DJ community, which is another thing we're trying to do. We're trying to bring other audiences into the fold. So by bringing on Heidi Lawson as a DJ, she's going to be DJing all night. We're also going to have a comedian named Chappelle Lacey who's going to be doing comedy. He does recovery comedy. He also does regular comedy. He's really big in the space of recovery. He's also a hilarious comedian. So we're going to have him. And another person that we're going to have speak Friday night is Brendan Barry, who's going to be an amazing speaker, amazing for the cause. Then there was really one guy that I really had to get for this event, that I think really blends the line of recovery, and he is literally, if you were to have a Mount Rushmore of treatment center owners in the United States today, right now, this gentleman is on it, and I had to get him to speak, and he agreed. And he's missing other events, and it's amazing to me. But Bobby Ferguson, who owns Jaywalker Lodge in Carbondale, Colorado, is going to also be presenting Friday night. He also owns two other treatment centers in Texas. But the thing about Bobby Ferguson that's amazing, and what makes his treatment centers so successful, is his passion and his willingness to love people, love all different people that are struggling. I've talked to people that are clients at his facilities where he knows them by name, and they're just in there for a couple weeks, and so I needed to get him to be able to present and speak to people at this event about ending overdose. He's going to be speaking Friday night. Then we go into Saturday, where we're going to have golf at Torrey Pines, and Torrey Pines golf is kind of meant to be the icing on this cake of this whole event. But I thought, what could be the greatest venue to do this? Torrey Pines is going to have the Farmers Open a couple of weeks before we play on it, the PGA tournament. It's an unreal course. So we're going to be doing that Saturday in the daytime. We've got several sponsors, whole sponsors, and different people that are going to be out there giving out swag and different things. And I'm trying to also make it so that it's not just men coming to golf. I want people to bring their wives. I want them to bring their families. So if you're not golfing, we have a pickleball event that we're going to be doing. We have a yoga that's by Larissa Kilbort, who is a certified yoga instructor. We have sound bath that we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing pool events. There's going to be a lot of different things going on while other people are golfing. Then after golf, we're going to do an auction with some different things. One of our sponsors is the Noah Foundation, which is the lead singer of Sublime that passed away. We're trying to get them to maybe give us a signed record or something, something for the auction. We're going to have a great lunch overlooking the ocean again, with Brandon um, Taylor, right? Is that right, Preston? Brandon Turner. Brandon Turner, who's an ex-professional skateboarder, also owns a treatment center down in San Diego. We're going to have Theo, who is the CEO of Overdose, that's going to be speaking. And we're just going to do a great event Saturday too. And we're going to try to raise some money for Overdose. Webserv, me, we're not making any money on the event. So it is a complete tax write-off for people that are going. Um, but it's really gonna be an amazing event. There's gonna be a lot of networking that's gonna be going on, and I mean, it's gonna be at one of the most beautiful places on the planet.
Yeah, it is one of the most beautiful places on the planet. I used to live 20, 30 minutes inland from there. And correct me if I'm wrong, Torrey Pines is technically a city course, right?
It
It's a
is.
public,
If you live
yeah,
there, it's like
but
75 bucks.
it's like the best private course you could imagine, except it's technically, technically a city course, but it is gorgeous. Like you'll think you're at the finest, golfing resort in terms of quality of play on the course. But you've got a whole lineup, different experiential things, yoga and pickleball. But since you guys have such an insight into the industry, I don't know nearly as much as you, but I did sit in on one particularly incredible panel on fentanyl, and people from the DEA were there, and they kind of broke it down. So for people who are maybe still learning about overdose, you touched on it, Paul, but for either of you, um, tell us what you know about fentanyl and opioid overdose. Like you said, it's increasing. You said it's getting worse. It's incredible, like the micro dosage and what it can do. But why is this so important in terms of what's happening in the country?
Yeah. Well, overdose has affected just about everybody at this point. So um, there are about 100,000 people dying of opioid related overdoses every year. That's 275 every day in the United States. That number's up from somewhere around 25,000 maybe 20 years ago. So it's absolutely an epidemic. I have tons of people that I know that passed away from opiates, and kind of what happened because you've heard about heroin overdoses for years. Legendary musicians and artists of all kind. It's affected culture and everything. But what happened is uh, in the I don't know late 2000s, um, uh, or maybe late 2010s, they they started producing fentanyl illicitly in large quantities, and this stuff was hundreds of times stronger than the heroin that was already pretty dangerous. And so once those drugs got on the street, um, I remember because I used to use drugs, and we started hearing about fentanyl, and we try to avoid it at all costs. But now that the kids just do fentanyl because it's cheaper, they seek it out, and it can be really touchy because um, it's diluted in some way. But if you get a piece that's really strong, it could be 100 times stronger than what you're used to, and you can overdose. There's a lot of interesting statistics and things that are going on to combat the opioid epidemic. I was at an event recently um, at Massimo's headquarters in Irvine, where their CEO Joe Kiani was talking with President Bill Clinton, and they talked about how overdoses were um, were happening in houses where there was other people, that these people are dying like silently in the night. Some, I don't know the exact statistic, but they said quite a bit of them are, and they're working on a device to they have a device called Opioid Halo that you wear, and it has actually I've got one right here. So it'll alarm, um, and there's a sensor that goes on your finger. There's an algorithm that detects an overdose. But the problem is that people aren't really wearing this device. But typically, I think overdose happens in a house when there's other people there, oftentimes silently in the night. Um, Generally, people that are using these types of drugs aren't upfront and open about it. Um,
Sure.
and some of these measures are really complex and challenging because they can't get people to that are using these drugs to take these precautions. They're typically not the most responsible um, people in the world. But what I really like about what End Overdose is doing, it's very different. They're meeting people where they are. So what they do, they have 30 chapters right now all across the United States. These are in college campuses and just all over. But they just approved 20 more, so they'll have 50, I think, next year. Um, and they train people on naloxone or Narcan. How to use it, when to use it, what to look for, etc. They teach all of that, and then they give free naloxone. A few years back, naloxone was a couple $100 a box. It's cheaper than that now, but they're just distributing it for free, and as well as giving fentanyl test strips. They've donated or they've given out for free like 250,000 doses of fentanyl over the past 2 years, and they've trained over 500,000 people. Um, and So it's pretty amazing what they're doing. And yeah, overdoses are they're horrible because um, people want to do drugs mostly to feel good and have a good time, whether they become an addict or not. They're uh, you can't tell these people that, hey, you can't do drugs. They're going to do drugs anyway. So um, I think there is some people that have a big problem and want to go to treatment. But there's way more people that are doing drugs that want to be doing drugs and don't want to get sober. And
Mm.
so I think it's really cool that their mission works the way that it does, because a lot of these people just aren't ready yet, and eventually will get sober if we can keep them alive long enough.
Mm. Yeah, I was in my gym the other day. It's like there's just like some Narcan right on the right on the shelf just in case somebody needs it. One of the the statistics that you shared, I've heard the same and similar statistics that are just as shocking. And one thing that's so worrisome to me is the manufacturing, not just illicitly, and sometimes it's a little bit shoddy manufacturing, but the way they're iterating on fentanyl and what they're doing to increase the efficacy, like it's already logarithmically way beyond heroin, and now we're working on making it even stronger, even more addictive. It's getting they're working on making it worse, not better. But it's also a really interesting point that you just made to me, which is yes, there are people who are struggling with maybe an addiction and want to get help, and then there are a lot of people who are totally fine not getting help, and maybe they do need it or will seek it one day if they can make it through. But in terms of what the work you're doing, what do you see as effective approaches for marketing that can reach somebody who's not even looking, like, or is it possible, is it just, are you just trying to capture the people who are suddenly aware of the need for help, or is there education that goes on even if somebody doesn't need or doesn't think they need help right now?
Yeah. There's actually like some talk in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous about um, kind of raising the bottom and helping people before they get into some of the uh, some of the like the state that I was in, which was pretty much like rock bottom by anyone's account, except maybe mine at the time. But
Oh wait, stop there real quick if you don't mind. Like, what was your mindset at the bottom?
well, um, when I got sober, I thought my life was like basically over because I had been using drugs pretty consistently for a decade, and I really didn't know anything else. I always had a job, so I had this job. It was like a phone sales job, and I had not the greatest relationship with my girlfriend at the time, and um, I had this horrible heroin addiction, and my car had gotten impounded, and the fees were stacking up. I wasn't going to be able to pay it off. I was, passively suicidal. I couldn't make it through a day of work without like breaking down in my like going to the bathroom and crying,
Yeah.
and and you know I kind of wanted to kill myself, but I didn't think I could do it, and so I knew I wanted something different. I didn't know what it was like. You could describe it as like the jumping off point. Um, but there's definitely more to the story, and I could talk about it for like hours. But yeah, I was pretty pathetic, you know.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I want to hear your story if you're open to sharing it sometime. We'll get dinner or something and hear more. So go ahead. I that was kind of an interesting sidebar to the question, but go ahead and kind of continue. You were talking about how to reach people when they're in these moments where they may not care. You were talking about raising the floor on.
Yeah, well, most of it's not possible, right? Like if somebody needs to take a drastic step that requires like a higher level of care, um, and they're not ready to do so, they're not in enough of a crisis by their standards, then they're not going to take action. There's programs out there to help families deal with these people, like maybe Al-Anon or something like that. A lot of times, it takes cutting people off. Uh, Financially or whatever, even your loved ones, and good boundaries. Those help people get to where they need to be. But a lot of people don't want help because in their eyes it's not bad enough. Like for me, I guess I had been, it was probably bad enough for 6 7 years, but I could get by, and I could pay my bills, and so there was this like internal narrative of um, you know I can keep it together, and then on top of that, like since drugs and alcohol, mostly drugs, was all I knew and all I really looked forward to, I didn't really have a reason to stop in my mind uh, because my life wasn't that great, but it was even worse when I was sober because I was just thinking about how I'd get more drugs. So when I finally got sober, that was not my experience at all. And actually, all of my best years happened uh, since I've been sober. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess um, there are things that people can do, and it's not like abstinence and total sobriety is the only way to go, or there's some sort of um, I don't even know. I only know what worked for me. So people can get to a better spot without going to rehab and doing all of that. But people that are like me, where I was, needed to make a drastic change. And if people aren't ready to make that, um, there's not really much you can do. That's why I love so much what End Overdose is doing. And a lot of people that are dying from drug overdoses. I mean, you could buy cocaine that's got a little bit of this fentanyl in it, and you could have an overdose. Um, there's counterfeit pills of all kinds. Like not everybody dying of an opioid overdose even knows that they're doing opioids. So they're doing fentanyl test strips, xylazine test strips. They're going to the big raves. They get a 10 by 10 booth at EDC, and they're giving out Narcan at EDC. They're going to big music festivals all over. They're in with like Live Nation, Insomniac events, and so I mean, abstinence worked for me, but some order of harm reduction is necessary when you've got drugs that are this dangerous.
Yeah.
Our hope would just be that people want something better for themselves, and we talk a lot about how 80% of the people that have a substance use disorder aren't being reached, um, or aren't taking any action on marketing, and it's not because like, oh, we're doing a bad job of marketing to these people. It's because they don't want to go to freaking rehab.
Yeah. It's kind of like, not to reduce it like too much, because it's such a critical problem you're helping to solve and work toward, but that's how it is in life. Anything you sell, it's like 3 to 5% of your market is ready to hear what you're talking about, and 95% of your market is probably not. Even if they have the problem, even if their problem is, I need some different basketball shoes. It's like, well, probably 5% of your market is ready to buy right now. And then what do you do for the other 95%? That's a fascinating problem. And we always talk about it in the context of addiction or mental health crisis or serious mental illness, but it's also just true kind of generally as a marketing trend, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that's another thing, you brought up the word crisis. I uh, I think that our marketing funnel is not like other industries because people aren't considering going to rehab. Nobody's looking forward to their flight to California, even if they're going to a nice place by the beach that's luxury, and everybody dreads a major change in their life, and it's rehab. It's embarrassing. Like, you don't want the world to know about it. You want to keep it together. You want to avoid rehab at all costs. So we don't have this big awareness and consideration push that happens before the conversion. Basically,
Yeah.
people are like, "Oh shit, my life is in shambles." I hope I can say that on this podcast. Sorry about
Oh
that.
yeah. Yeah. No, totally.
But oh, my life's in shambles and I have to do something about it right now. And the same was true for me. I had accepted the fact that my life was over, but I couldn't go on the way that I was. So it was just going to suck from that point forward.
That's incredible.
I came to terms with that, and
Yeah.
it's not been my experience again. But yeah,
Yeah, it's not like you finally saved up and you're getting the car of your dreams. It's like, oh, I'm taking my life that feels worthless to a rehab center that's I feel shame about, and will this even help me? So yeah, I mean, definitely some differences in terms of what people are shopping for, but it's like, it's like there's greed and there's fear, like those two things kind of boil down to like most of the motivators. So I guess the market is finally motivated, whether it's positively motivated or just anti-negative motivated. It's like the pain has gotten too much, or there's something there that makes somebody or their family realize it's time to get some help. And what an amazing outcome in your life, and the fact that it's I think about this idea a lot about concentric circles. It's like you throw a little rock in a pond, whatever, we've all heard that, but the fact that the growth out from that is exponential growth. Like you look at oak trees and the rings around them, and it's like, well, it's not, it grows that way, and the impact you're having is that way because look at what you're doing for organizations in this exact space. And also you opened, I think, a virtual outpatient
Yeah.
center.
Yeah,
We
we
haven't
did.
opened it yet, but we're
Haven't
working on
opened it yet. Okay.
it.
Okay, good. I'm just learning about it, but tell me about that.
Yeah, so we have a virtual outpatient called Bright Path Mental Health that we are getting accredited right now. We're hoping to have it done by the end of next month. Um, we're gonna be we're hoping to have it become a full continuum someday. That's kind of our goal. But we're gonna start out as a virtual outpatient center, um, and kind of grow from there. And one thing that when we were talking about what we wanted to do, um, we wanted to do mental health. Um, we understand that addiction and addiction treatment centers, a lot of them have the dual diagnosis where a lot of times you're doing drugs because of your mental health. Um, but we really wanted to take the mental health approach, with our treatment center, to have the vertical of where we can treat people with really acute mental health problems. Um, so we're not up and running yet, but we will be up and running very, very soon. We have everything in place, and we're just trying to make great partners in the industry right now, in California before we start. So we got some good partners.
It's awesome. It's exciting. Well, I hope that goes just the way you want it. Sounds like more net positive effect in people's lives. So, I know it's a journey, and it's never easy to grow a business or multiple businesses like you all are. I would assume the same way it is for almost everybody else who I've talked to, doing similar amazing work. But I just applaud you guys and want to encourage you to, continue to grow. And you don't need my encouragement to do that. You are well on your way. But thanks for being on the show today. And specific to the event you're running, how do people find out about the End Overdose event?
Yeah, you can find it on events.webserv.io. We're doing regular LinkedIn posting. We're starting up an email campaign. It's on October 4th and 5th. So time's a ticking. I think early bird pricing will end sometime in September. I forget, maybe or something like that. But it says on the website.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be hard not to find it if you're in the industry, and if you're not, yeah, just go to events.webserv.io and you can find it there.
Awesome. Sounds good. And we'll include that link in the show notes and everything. But Paul and Preston, it's really good to talk with you again. And thanks for being on the Boost.
Thank
Thank
you,
you. Thank
Steve.
you.